I went to every part of this country, so I know exactly the challenges that I may get at the IEBC. When I served as a deputy principal for finance, again, I was a secretary to the board. So that again is an experience which may inform the problems that I see at IEBC. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. Are you a registered voter?
Yes, I am.
Where did you vote in the last election?
I voted at Gotv Primary School, Magutu Ward, what is it called, this constituency, Madera constituency in Nyeri County.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. I'll now request Mr. Maurice Kimuli to ask you a few questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Professor.
Yes.
It's in the public domain, and it's also in your documents, that you worked with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission.
Yes.
Is that so?
Correct.
From which year to which year?
2014 to 2018, 4 years.
What would you say are the structural differences between the Cohesion Commission and IEBC?
Actually, there's no structural differences, but what I would say is that the National Cohesion Commission was extremely coherent. There was a clear demarcation between the staff and the commissioners. We allowed the staff to do their work. What I see in the television on IEBC is there seems to be a mishmash on that one. There seems to be a bit of ego. So that's admitted, but otherwise there is not much difference. The commission is a commission, the structure is nearly the same.
What, in your understanding, was the key role of commissioners of the Cohesion Commission?
The key role was actually peace building, peace maintenance. See, national cohesion and integration, the key role was building peace and then maintaining peace.
And you had a secretariat?
Yes.
And the secretariat had the basic role of implementing the policies of the commission.
Correct.
For IEBC, the secretariat has the key role of also implementing the policies. And the commissioners in IEBC are in charge of policy and oversight. Were the commissioners at the Cohesion Commission in charge of policy and oversight?
Yeah, they were.
So why are you saying that there was a difference in structure?
I didn't say there was a difference. I think you didn't get me. What I said is when I look at what transpires in public between the commissioners at IEBC and the secretariat, I'm saying there was a marked difference there, the national cohesion. There was a total cohesiveness between the two bodies, between the secretariat and the commissioners. So there is a difference there. Now, what is causing the difference on the other side is what I would imagine maybe is, you see, the law, I think, Constitution, it says the mandate, the people are supposed to execute is actually the secretariat, the mandate of the commission. Okay?
Okay.
So I didn't say there is a difference.
When you say that there seems to be friction between the commission, the IEBC commissioners and the secretariat, that is not a problem of the structure. It could be a problem of the individuals.
Correct.
It could be a problem of the individuals.
Correct. Misinterpreting their rules.
But it could also mean that there is something they are doing, and that is where we can see conflicts, because, you know, moving parts are the ones that make noise.
Yes.
In the Integration Commission, is there one monumental achievement you would say you had during the period you were there?
As a person there, we worked really collegially, collectively. So I wouldn't arrogate myself the credit of the achievement. The achievement were immense. I mean, you remember that on a river, there used to be annual, almost, clashes there. Since the Kaparu Commission, we were able to solve that problem almost permanently. Okay? We gave several advisories. Some of them became law as the commissioners. But I want to say this, it was collective enterprise. I couldn't take personal credit for the achievement of the commission.
Now, one of the most visible deliverables and expectations of Kenyans with respect to the Cohesion Commission is in relation to hate speech.
Correct.
Do you think the Commission has done enough? You know, you may have done a lot, you know, under the waters, but in terms of what Kenyans really think is your role, hate speech, do you think you've done enough?
Yes, I'll tell you that we did, because 2017 is like our key indicator of success. That election was peaceful until after the election. So we were nearly everywhere with those important cameras, making sure that we can deal with any situation of hate speech or incitement. And then we made the public and the politicians know that we will be there and we will be with them. And so they were very careful all the way to the campaign period until after the election. So after the election, they brought their issues.
Is it then your view, Professor, that there is no hate speech in Kenya?
No, it's not. It's not my view. There is no hate speech. There is hate speech.
There is hate speech.
I think I couldn't even give you an example of hate speech that we tried to address, but that's when I came to respect the people who have worked with the government for some time, the wisdom. There was a time one of the senior politicians went to Kajiado, and he told those people who were talking to there that stop selling land to a very specific community. So we met as commissioners and we decided that this is the time to act. And we need to act decisively. So we got the director of the CID. We are not involved Kaparo at that time. We are waiting to get him and then uniform. So what happened is we agreed, we said, okay, we are moving on this fellow. But something was bothering me about that. So I went to the office and called one of the senior government officers, and I told him we have made this decision. Then he asked me a very simple question: where will you put him? So I went back to my colleagues. I asked them, where are we going to put him? We cancelled. We decided not to proceed with that.
You decided not to arrest?
Yeah, we decided not to proceed.
Now, please confirm. Do you know the act that established the Cohesion Commission?
Yes, 2008.
Do you know the name of the act?
There's NCI Act 2008.
Confirm that that commission is established as an independent commission.
No, it's not. It's an Act of Parliament commission.
But
it's not
the Act of Parliament says that it's an independent commission.
Correct.
Subject to the direction of no one.
Correct.
Why did you go to the senior public officer to ask for authority to arrest somebody who has contravened the law?
Can I tell you this? Sometimes you need to be careful. You could create a bigger problem than the one you are trying to solve. And therefore, when we say independent, we really don't mean independent in a way that you cannot seek counsel. Okay? We mean independent in executing the mandate, yes. But if there's a critical decision that you need to make, in a situation like that one, you need to seek counsel. Because you could create a bigger problem than the one you are trying to solve.
You understand that the Electoral Commission you now seek to join is also an independent commission?
Yes, it is.
Is it your view that when they make critical decisions on matters that are more emotive than hate speech, they would also need to call somebody before they deal with big fish?
Not necessarily.
That will have to be done by other people because you believe that you as a person must consult senior people.
No, I don't. That's not my belief. This is what, when you have a sensitive position, you need to treat that position with a lot of care because they can resort to a lot of the person you wanted, where I hope I did not say the name because I thought that that's basically like common knowledge. We are trying, it was the leader of the opposition then, okay? The former
he was a big
minister.
person.
He's the former Prime
In
Minister.
politics, when in the work of IEBC, does IEBC deal with big people?
There's something I'm trying to...
I'm just asking a simple
It
question.
does. You deal with the big people.
Including the president.
Yes.
Is IEBC independent from the president?
It is.
It is independent.
Yeah.
Is the commission, the integration commission, independent from the president?
It is.
But you still felt that you needed to refer to some senior people before you touch big fish.
Yes, because let me tell you this. That was an important decision.
Now I get you.
I felt that decision could create a bigger problem than if we ignored him. And so I had to check with somebody. And this fellow is, I think he's about 80 years now, he's still serving. So I had to check with them because I felt something, that feeling, you just can't explain that you're about to make a mistake.
Professor, do you have a backbone?
A serious one.
Can you stand on your own?
Absolutely.
You know that we are looking for people who are extremely independent to be in the commission?
I know that.
People who do not have to look over their shoulders when they are executing public mandate?
Yes.
You know that?
I know that.
Okay, one last question, sir. In terms of the law and the structure, what are the similarities between the two commissions, the one you served and the one you want to join? One, appointment. What are the similarities in terms of appointment, briefly?
Well, the similarities is upon the recruitment exercise like this one, and then the proposal is made to the president appoints, and the parliament confirms.
Do they do a recruitment process like this for the Cohesion Commission?
No, this is where I think the whole country needs to give you credit. This is what I think this is different, and it is the best. And I hope this is how we are going to do all the recruitment that we must do in this country.
Now, both commissions are regulated by law in terms of the numbers of commissioners.
Yes.
Court members.
Yeah.
What are the similarities or differences in terms of numbers of commissioners in both commissions? The Cohesion Commission, there are how many?
8.
8.
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I'm sure about that.
The commissioners are 8.
Commissioners are 8 together with the chairman, 7 and the chair, 8.
And for IEBC?
It's supposed to be 3 to 9, but they have 7 commissioners, IEBC.
They have 7 commissioners.
Yes.
Okay. So, I've seen you've worked in a number of places, sir. You've dealt with employees. I just want to ask you one last question. How do you think is the obligation of the commissioners, and you dealt with cohesion, in terms of gender equity in IEBC? Do you know what the law says?
Yeah, the law says that in terms, well, yes, I know what the law says. The obligation of the commissioners is to make sure that in any position that they feel, they will follow the 2/3 gender rule. It's extremely important.
In every position you fill?
In appointed position that the commission does, it ought to follow that rule.
Are you supposed to look at seniority, or are you supposed to take, account of all the employees and you say women are this number, men are this number, or do you look at what level?
I think you look at both. You look at the departments and you see whether they are appropriate. There's an appropriate in diversity in that respect, and then you look at the whole organization to establish again the diversity in that respect. And then you address the situation as you see it.
So is the guiding principle gender equality or gender equity?
I think equity is probably much more than equality.
It's equity.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and all the best, Professor. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimuli. I'll now request Dr. F.S. Abdallah to ask his questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Professor, allow me to have a conversation with you. And first and foremost, you had just told this panel that you realize that IEBC is all about law.
Yeah.
Right. And now, Professor, there is a big need and demand for people of your caliber. There is issues of finance, there's issues of management, there's issue of creating leadership. So please take it out from here and remember that there's big need for people of your caliber and credibility. Thank you. Now, Professor, I've seen from your CV that, of course, your position now is you've done financing, you've done accounting, and your present job description is a professor of management and leadership.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you. So maybe we could use some of your advice on this. I happen to be in business too, and there is an association called Association of Family Business Enterprises. Have you heard of it?
No, I wouldn't say yes. Because I haven't been in that area of finance and accounting since I left Egerton University.
But you
I
did
went
it.
purely after the PhD, and after I left, I went purely to management.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, in succession in management or in business, you've heard of a writer called Simon Sinek?
And what?
Simon Sinek is an entrepreneur, publisher and writer. Right. In one of his business books, he says that think of an organization like a plant. Think like an organization like a plant, yeah? No matter how strong it is, no matter how tall it grows, if it cannot make new seeds, if it is unable to produce new leaders, its ability to thrive for generations beyond is nil. One of the primary jobs of a leader is to make new leaders.
Right.
Do you agree?
I agree completely.
Thank you. So you're a leader.
Yes.
And trainers of the leaders.
Yes.
If you do get to be a commissioner, now, how would you use your experience, qualifications, to create leaders and set up such policies in IEBC? Because it's evident that it's a circle. Every 6 years, 7 years, new breeds comes in, everybody comes, so we would like to hear that from you, Professor.
MPC could actually do with that. This is what you do.
Thank you.
See, the commissioners will come and leave after 6 years. But the secretariat is permanent there. So you need to build a strong secretariat. You see, when you look at the MPC right on, I notice that the CEO is acting. The deputy CEO is acting. Clearly, there is something wrong there. So what you want to do is to build a strong secretariat. Because that is now the carrier of knowledge of the commission to the future commissioners.
Right. Prof, yes, we are on the same level on that. I totally agree to that, and I believe in succession well in advance, right? Now, what type of leaders do you want to create? There is the type of leaders, Prof, which says, go and get it done, which is very common in the government institution, and there's that leader says, let's do it. What type of leader is your choice?
You need the ethical leaders. You need leaders who know how to allow people to work, who can delegate, who can trust that the people you assign the duty, they will actually do that in duty and deliver. You need to create a leader who is not self-centered, who is going to lead for the people that the leader is in charge of. So you need that level of responsibility.
Thank you, Prof. You do appreciate your position is as a lecturer, as a teacher, your word is taken as the Bible. This scenario where you're coming here, you're going to deal with people of different caliber and hardcores. How would you handle that?
People of different
caliber, different. As a teacher, your word is God. Here, you're coming to people
Yes.
who have already been in existence or a different thinking. It could be a dilemma. How would you handle that?
I handled that very well at NCIC. At NCIC, you deal with all the spectrum of the Ghanaian population. And believe me, I did it so well that my chairman recommended me for an MBS. In fact, I was the only commissioner in that 8 commissioners who was able to get the commendation. Because I was able, you can go up and down depending on which people you are addressing. That's the beauty of being a teacher, really. The different knowledge levels, you can figure out how to address all that. And I address women in groups, youth in groups. So It's easy for me. That's very easy for me.
Okay. For information, I also hold an EBS and OGW. So we, and you,
Yes.
right. What initiatives have you been responsible for in your current or previous role that demonstrate your track records in policy development and oversight responsibilities?
I was chair of the Civic Education Committee at the NCIC. In Motimendi also as the deputy principal and the secretary to the board, to the council. I integrated with a lot of those policy measures. And therefore, I don't know if I want to go there, but yes.
You think there's something you don't want us to hear?
No, you see, the experience in terms of policy from NCIC and multimedia, because there is an area which I think if I'm lucky and get this job, there's an IEBC problem that need to be addressed. Our election is extremely expensive. In fact, I think it's the most expensive in the world. As a policy issue, I think I'm sweetened because of these areas which I'm served to offer a solution there. Because I see the primary costing drivers is the equipment we buy and the printing of ballots. There is absolutely no reason why the ballots have to be printed outside this country. I would utilize the structures which exist. I would, of course, persuade the chairman. I'm not the chairman, so I'm not the final decision maker, but as a commission, I would persuade the chairman to get a buy-in and the other commissioners, and therefore we would have a meeting with the stakeholders. And the stakeholders here is only the primary stakeholders. So the primary stakeholders is the political parties competing in that election, is the government, is the office of the registrar of political parties. And we would utilize this committee, the political party liaison committee. We would ask these people to select a committee for ballot printing. These people would select a committee for ballot printing, and we will use the government printer and save this country a lot of money. We need to stop distrusting our institutions.
Thank you, Prof. Let me assure you, whatever you talk here is your opinion, and and this is what will help you, will help us to assess your ability, independent mind to be a commissioner or not. The question you've raised was asked to the chairman of the IEBC. The same thing we asked him when he met us.
Yes.
The same thing about the ballot paper and various other things. But of course, he had his own opinion, we had our own. So that's a very, very important factor which Kenyans are looking at, right? So it's important because you are live on air and everybody is hearing you and everybody is seeing you.
Yes.
So my sincere, talk your mind out.
Yeah, okay.
You're a professor.
Asante sana.
Thank you. My next question, Prof. Under the IEBC Act, the funds of the Commission may consist of any grants, gifts, donation, or other endowments given to the Commission. How, in your view, can the Commission safeguard its independence when it receives funding in the form of gifts, donation, and other endowments? You don't go and ask that and says, no, I want it this way. How would you do that?
The Commission can safeguard its independence by insisting that the funding, that the people of Kenya fund their own democracy. The worst thing you can do in this commission is to surrender it to gifts or to well wishes. They say whoever pays the pauper calls the tune. So the commission has a fund. The law has set up a fund for the commission. We need to operationalize that fund. We need to give this commission leeway to grow our democracy.
Right. Prof, you just said that about the ballot papers, printing this and that, you're not the chairperson. You will go and talk to the chairperson. Hypothetically, if the chairperson does not agree with you, what will be your conscience guiding you to?
The chairperson will agree with me, believe me.
In the event?
In the event, no, I'm very
You got two options, whether you throw yourself from the building or you throw somebody off the building.
I am
talking
very
about-
persuasive.
You have that.
When I have a very good idea, and I don't see how the Shia is a patriotic Kenyan. And as a patriotic Kenyan, you want to spend all that money here in this country. So the Shia will agree with me.
I'm not in any way saying there's no patriotism in any of the commissions coming.
Yes.
I'm just saying that the truth will and should prevail with facts.
Yeah,
Thank you, Professor, and all the best.
thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Abdallah. I'll now request Mr. Gideon Solonka to ask a few questions.
Prof, what is the difference between civic education and voter education, which is stipulated under Article 84G?
Civic education civic education will cover the responsibilities of a citizen in general. It will cover the offenses which they may encounter if they mismark in ballot, if they do this. It will cover the offenses, the Electoral Offences Act. It will cover their responsibilities as citizens. The voter education would probably, let me say, zero in on how these people are supposed to vote, the procedures, and the fact that if there are special people who need some assistance, can be assistant. That's what I think is the demarcation, but there's a very thin line on that one.
Okay.
It's a very thin line.
Thank you. Now, 2022 is not far, and very soon we'll begin seeing opinion polls results being flashed all over. What is your view on opinion polls in predicting the outcome of an election?
Opinion polls, we need to take them with a pinch of salt because it depends on the methodologies. Sometimes it depend on the persuasion of the people carrying those polls. So I wouldn't give them a lot of weight because sometimes I saw in the US like the Hillary Trump election. I mean, they had put Hillary Clinton away so far, but Trump came here and they won. So I'll be careful.
But do they affect how people think?
They can affect. They can drive people in a different direction, yes.
Okay. So, in your opinion, do we need to have any restrictions or regulations on the same?
Well, yeah, but we need also to be very careful with the restrictions because, this is a part of the freedom of the media to advocate. It's part of it because there's questions which they structure in order to draw that information. These sometimes extremely valid questions, and they need to be out there in the public. So with the restrictions, we need to guide in a careful way that it serves society.
Thank you. For your information, we have an Electoral Opinion Polls Act 2012.
Yes.
Are you aware of some of the restrictions that have been placed regarding electoral opinion polls?
No, I'm not aware.
You are not aware of any?
No.
Okay. Thank you. My next question will be, the IEBC has powers under Section 55B
It has?
of the Elections Act. It has powers
Yes.
to postpone elections in a constituency, county, or ward for such a period as it may consider necessary in 3 instances.
Yeah.
Are you able to share those 3 instances where IEBC can postpone an election?
Yeah, I think so. I think in situations where IEBC can guarantee the security of the voters,
Okay.
it ought to invoke that power. If the candidate dies, it ought to invoke that power.
If a candidate dies?
Yeah, if the candidate, not sorry. You see, in the situations where if the candidate is withdraw, for example, it couldn't postpone elections, I think. Yeah, even then they can trigger, if that's, I think it can trigger postponement. But let me say that one, I'm not very clear, and I don't want to venture into areas where I'm not clear.
Okay.
I think I want to be careful there on that question.
Okay. Now let's move on. In a referendum, the question is an integral component of the exercise.
Yes.
Do you know who drafts a referendum question?
I think the promoters draft the question. And is promoters or IEBC? IEBC drafts the referendum question. Yes, I think.
Prof, don't guess. Don't guess. Just.
Is IEBC supposed to do that and lay it to one of the houses or to the House or to Parliament?
So it is IEBC and not the promoter.
A question, drafting the question in general terms is the promoters. It's not the IEBC.
So are you telling us we have questions in general terms and in specific terms?
So, the promoters, I think they can draft either a general question or a bill. So just a bill. Okay? So that's what they present now to IEBC with the signatures, with those signatures.
Prof, you may wish to look at section 49 too. It's IEBC, the commission, that does that.
The question. Okay.
Yes. Now, what happens after the commission has framed the question or questions?
It will take them to Parliament.
Then?
And the
Give
Parliament.
me that, the sequence of
the sequence they take.
what happens?
They will take it to Parliament.
Yes.
So when the Parliament
What?
approves, the law says it is not clear which house they're supposed to take to, and I think there's a debate about that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a debate about that, but I guess because it's not clear, they can take it to any of the houses.
Yes.
Okay? And then after that, they return it to the commission. And then the commission now drafts the questions which are supposed to go to the public to vote on.
Okay. So how long is the commission required to conduct a referendum from the date when the question has been published?
21 days.
Sure?
Yes.
21 days?
21 days.
Prof, you're wrong.
Wow. After the declaration of the date.
No, after publication of the question.
After publication of the question.
Yes.
16 days.
Again, you're wrong, Prof.
You want another guess?
No, let's not.
9 days. That is 3 months.
Now you have landed to the correct one through guesswork, Prof. Thank you.
Yes.
Then what happens? I want you to address me on the issue of symbol.
Single.
The symbol that is normally given to.
The commission will select
Yes.
the symbol or symbols, depending on the number of questions. So it will collect, and then the people supporting are supposed to set up referendum committees. Those, if it is yes or no, those opposing, they will set up referendum committees.
Okay.
And
Now-
the commission will approve those committees.
Okay. Now, when it comes to symbol,
Yes.
is the commission at liberty to assign any symbol?
I think so. I think the commission, yes, is at liberty to assign symbol. If there's a responsibility for assigning symbols, then it can also assign a symbol.
There is no any restriction on that.
I don't think so. I don't think there's a restriction because that is, I don't think there's a legal restriction. But like I said, I'm not an expert as of now
Okay.
on the electoral law, but I'm a learner. I'm a quick learner and I will learn.
Also, you're saying if you're given that chance, you'll be able now to begin learning issues of law.
Serious, with a lot of speed.
Okay. Like for example, can the commission assign a symbol of the ruling party symbol?
The commission cannot use a symbol which resembles any party. In a referendum, that must be a clear symbol that people can identify that it does not belong to any party, or you need to remove confusion in those symbols. So it can't.
It cannot.
It cannot use.
Now you've answered. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best.
Asante sana.
Thank you, Mr. Solonka. I'll now request Madam Elizabeth Mayo to ask you her questions.
Thank you, Chair. How are you, Professor?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Professor, I'd like to refer you to the response you gave my brother Maurice on the role of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. My worry is that we've been having a lot of hate speech outside there. And the response you gave is that because this was a very big person, let me put in quotes, you had to consult, and actually, there is nothing you did. You dropped the issue.
What? No,
So,
we cautioned. We
you
did not drop the
cautioned,
issue.
okay.
We cautioned.
So, what have you done at the National Cohesion and Integration Commission on issues of hate speech?
We we had really a program, which I think you couldn't be aware of it because most of it was in the purview of the public, program to counter the hate speech. The political class is a little bit very interesting, but what we did also was to organize some trips for the parliamentarians just before the election to Rwanda to show them what can happen if they were to continue in the trajectory which they were. But also we had a lot of civic education to explain the Kenyans about basically about the selfishness of our leaders, actually. That, they are brilliant, they are clever. I think we have produced a very brilliant, credible politician who will simply make you, you are miserable. You happen to be a Luo, it's a miserable Kikuyu, and they make you think that your misery is better if you elect the president from your tribe. We are able to convince these Kenyans, by and large, that is not the reality. You live in the same market, you suffer the same policy mishap, and therefore make a choice. Your neighbor is your friend, it's not your enemy, by merely coming from another tribe. But not just that. We also were able to do some research and really see that the Kenyans, by and large, live very peacefully together without absolutely worry about the tribe. We check the parameters of trust. We trust each other very well. No Kenyan goes out here looking for an apartment or a house to buy, and then you do research to find out who else lives there. That does not happen. So we have nearly 90% trust with one another.
Okay, thank you, Professor. If you are appointed commissioner today, what would you bring on board to safeguard against hate speech so that we have a peaceful election in 2022? Professor, Kenyans are dying for this, and if you can convince us that you will ensure that we have a peaceful election, no hate speech, we see ourselves as brothers and sisters, then that will be very good. So please tell us what you'll bring on board.
Actually, it's a very what I'm bringing on board is been to work together with other commissioners in that commission to make sure that the laws are enforced. There is elaborate laws here. You look at the Election Offences Act, is elaborate on not which offences should not be committed, including that hate speech. What we need is to inform those likely to do hate speech, because that should be a departure from our approach from the Commission. You see, from NCIC, we approach hate speech as conciliators. Our primary role was actually reconciliation. So we said we don't want to bring more problem than necessary, and therefore we will approach from a perspective of reconciliation. The IEBC cannot afford to do that. It must enforce the law to the letter in order to stop the people who may want to create trouble in order to be elected, in order to seek office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Professor. My next question, I want to refer to your case study I believe you are still remembering the issues.
I'm remembering, yes.
Yeah, so one of the issues was that there were 2 million youth who were unable to register as voters because they did not have identity card. So I want to read your response to that, and you'll tell us why you think it should be like that, and what you will do to help these 2 million voters. So what you said is that there is little the Commission can do about it because it is entirely the responsibility of Registrar of Persons. You are a commissioner at IBC. 2 million youth don't have votes, you've been told. Then you say, that is not my problem. Me, I'll wait for you here until that time that you will get the IDs. That's when come to me, knock, and I will register you. Remember, some of the government organs are your stakeholders. So what does this statement say about you?
The implication for that statement was that, you understand the register has already been closed.
Do
And
you explain? Yeah.
and that's when that report came after closing the register. I was looking at opening the register, but as how do the other, given the time, the case is talking about time limits here. Register has been closed for inspection. It's 3 months or something to the election. So given that time, you have to admit when you can actually do lateral, because that's another agency. You see, what in your control, you should be able to deal with that. And that's what I said. And that was because the revision of the register is continuous. I said about the 20 people, it's possible to clean. But given the time limits the case put, you have to be realistic.
Okay, thank you, Professor. We have what we call stakeholder engagement.
Yeah.
We expected you to tell us that you will consult Registrar of Persons, engage them as your stakeholders. Yeah?
But
No?
just 1 minute. It
Yes.
will not have worked given that the register is closed.
Yeah.
We are dealing with a situation where the register has already been closed.
Yeah.
So that will not have assisted.
Okay. Registrar of Persons, you agree are your stakeholders?
In fact,
Yeah.
if, in my opinion, what the other thing I would like to do, and the expert can work out this, in the event that I get this job, is actually to remove this business of registering voters entirely.
So as a commissioner, what will you do to ensure that the commission gets support of all the key critical stakeholders to enable the commission actually carry out their duties effectively?
I was trying to explain
Okay, continue.
something I want to contribute in this issue of voter registration. And you see, we have registration of persons. It's actually the commission on the structure. This can be worked out by experts in such a way that you get, given the way the ranges are set, the ranges are set from the polling station, is set from ward, is set from the constituency and the county. And of course, there is the register for the Kenyans living abroad. So you could easily get the register, you could create actually what you would call a desk register if you want from the registrar of persons and allocate the polling stations because our IDs are very elaborate on what, and then now you have 3 or so months where you ask people to come, those who want to change polling stations. That can save money and create a comprehensive enough and authoritative enough register. So personally, I think this periodic registration, we need to rethink about it because this is some of the cost drivers, which is making, they say that to register a voter in Kenya, it costs $20. To get that voter to go and vote, that is $7. The average worldwide to do all that is $5. That's a contribution I would like to make.
Yeah, Professor, that is really not answering what I'm asking.
I wasn't answering now. Please, you can ask.
Yes, yeah. What you gave us is what I'm trying to remind you. And you should have written all those you are telling us here, but you didn't. You simply said that there's nothing the commission can do. It is the responsibility of Registrar of Persons. So I'm just trying to tell you Registrar of Persons is one of the key stakeholders of IBC. So what measures can you put in place if you are appointed today such that you can ensure that stakeholders who are key to IBC can actually add value to IEBC? What measures can you put in place?
In terms of registration of voters, what I just said is what I would actually try to talk to the experts and see how that can be done, because that will remove will shorten, will make it easy for registration of voters. That's what I would do. But of course, consulting the stakeholders is what any learning organization ought to do.
So you will only engage registrar of persons?
No, you're wrong. In
So
terms of voter registration, you mean? Voter registration, if I want to do it, I suggest that I want to change, but if I want to do it the normal way we have been doing it, you talk with the faith organizations, you engage the civil organization, SEOs, you engage the Ministry of Education, you engage, there's a whole battery of avenues that you can use in order to reach the voters and register them.
Yeah, Professor, can I bring it to your attention that the stakeholders are not concentrating only on voter registration. There are other aspects of the activities of IEBC that they help them to do.
Yes.
They engage. So that is what I'm trying to get from you.
Okay.
Who are these stakeholders and how are they assisting IEBC? You told us about voter registration.
If the stakeholders in different categories and we apply them at different times. So if it is during the electioneering period, then you deal with the Ministry of Interior quite a bit, because for security reasons. If it is depending on where you are within the electoral cycle, you will reach out to different stakeholders. So during the elections, the primary stakeholders then would be, for example, the Kenya National Examination Council. It would be the Ministry of Education. It would be the Ministry of Interior during elections. During other times, you could engage, if it is time you are doing voter education, then you will invoke these organizations, faith-based organizations. So the stakeholders, it will depend at what stage you want to deploy them.
Professor, would you consider the media as part of the stakeholders that
Big
IEBC?
one. I mean, there's a big stakeholder.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay, you left them out. Now tell us, what role does the media play in an election process?
It's a communication role. The media will explain the commission to the public. The media will inform the public what the commission is doing, because you need to maintain transparency. The media plays a really critical role, and that is why the freedom of the media is one of those freedoms. So it plays a huge role.
Okay, thank you, Professor. In your view, what is your assessment of the engagement IEBC has given to key stakeholders? What do you think they have done right, and what do you think needs to be improved?
I just don't get that question properly.
I am asking you, you have identified some key stakeholders.
Yes.
And you have also agreed that stakeholder management is very critical.
It's absolutely indispensable.
It's indispensable.
Yeah.
So what do you think IEBC has done well, they have done right, and what do you think still needs some improvement? And if it needs improvement, what kind of improvement would you propose to IEBC?
I think IEBC as an organization, when I roughly look at their documentation, these fellows are actually done extremely good job. Their documentation in terms of policy and document, human resource manuals, they have done well, and you can see that. But then they have not used the media, for example, and other people to inform on what they have been doing. And that's probably that would create some communication, some misunderstanding,
Okay.
because we don't know what they are doing, and we need to know what they are doing. But looking at their documents, I think they have really done well.
Okay, thank you, Professor. It has been noted that very few women actually participate in some of these elective positions. What do you think are some of the barriers stopping women from participating in elections?
Some of it is money. Some other barriers is our culture.
What do you mean by money?
Resources to run. You see, our elections, we have converted them into business, basically. And
We have turned elections into business.
yeah, that's what it is. I mean, that's a bit obvious. We have turned it really into business. I mean, if you look at the proposed, or rather, I don't know whether it's still a law, finance is in billions. They're talking about billions or millions to run for governor, to run. That's a huge amount of money which you cannot recover from your salary as a member of parliament. So sometimes you wonder exactly what it is that you are looking for. So that is a big barrier for women. The other barrier is culture, because sometimes we don't understand where the women exactly belong within society. If you are married here, we want to imagine that you should run there. And this is something also we are struggling with at the Commission, to define exactly what is the role. So culture is a big barrier here for women. And also basic ignorance, because if you check, I've written quite a bit about women. My PhD was actually about women in businesses, because I believe that women management is superior, more or less, to that of men, because the men are competitive in everything that they are doing. The women are extremely reasonable when they are dealing with a situation. I see myself even in my own house, when my children were small, they were fighting nearly all the time like they do. When they come to me, I become a judge. I want to know who did what to whom. But when they go to my wife, she holds them. By the time she releases them, they have forgotten that they were fighting. So getting women into position of leadership, they can hold the whole country just like that. And we are better for it.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Now that you have also said that women are reasonable if given these positions, and you have identified 3 barriers: 1, money, culture, and ignorance. If you are appointed as a commissioner, what will you do to address this?
You know, I think this is an area where I think I will have a real impact. The implementer of that gender rule is actually not Parliament, it's IEBC. So this is what I would do together with the commissioners. We will insist that political parties, when they are doing their nominations, because this is how you give the women opportunity to canvass, is that they follow that rule to the letter. I think you will be able to push through that rule as a commission and make sure that it is followed, because it's one of the mandate of IEBC.
Thank you, Professor. What will you do to address the challenge of money, which you said is a barrier, culture, and ignorance? Please answer these 3. Very critical for the women outside there and even for me.
That one we can do with the civic education, because we need to reduce the idea of using money for electioneering. That the Kenyans need to be educated away from that. They need to see what is their leader is going to bring to them in terms of ideas, but not necessarily the money is used even to buy the vote. You know, I had an experience in the other election, the one which just finished. Some fellow earned money in bags. He even had the protection of the police in distributing 50 shillings. That is already in the Election Offences Act. Okay? So to shield the women from this is the question of executing the law and executing it properly. But the culture and the other one, you have to deal with the civic education. So there have to be sufficient resources for civic education.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mel. I will now request the Vice Chair to ask his questions.
Professor, what are the challenges to our electoral democracy today?
I think our challenge in simple language is impunity, really. Because impunity brings corruption. You know, you look at the things we do during the electioneering period, purchasing things too late, even serious equipment which needs testing, which needs a lot of things, we buy them too late. We buy them too late because you need to give opportunities for direct procurement, which will then lead to opportunity for corruption. But I think the biggest challenge, the way I see it, is that simply the managers of our electoral system, they're actually afraid of doing the right thing. They are more afraid of doing the right thing than they are of doing the wrong thing. That is a big challenge.
Why do you think so?
Well, it's a big challenge because I don't know how that kind of fear penetrates a whole system. I'm looking at, for example, our election of 2013. The Kenya integrated the KIMS failed. But the same equipment did not fail in Ghana in 2012. It didn't fail in South Africa in 2014. So you'll be excused if you didn't think there was undelivered sabotage here. So we have a problem that needs to be addressed, and it's fundamental because it's a problem that will make you not execute, the right thing to do, but then you are afraid of doing the right thing.
Where do you think the fear is coming from? What's the cause of this fear that makes electoral managers freeze? I
can't put my finger on it, but this is something that is important to find and remove. Because if we don't remove that, we put the whole country in danger. You see, election is one of those things that need to cement us, but not separate us. To do that, the electoral management body needs to be believable, and they need to get rid of that paralyzing fear, which curtails the actions. Let me just be short. But it's a big problem.
Now, you become a commissioner.
Yeah.
How will you deal with that fear?
One of the methods of dealing with the fear also is basically motivating, lifting your commissioners if they have that fear, and explaining to them that they have a duty to the people of Kenya, but not duty to the appointing authority. Because once you get that job, you get the job to serve those who pay you. The appointing authority was executing its or mandate, basically. So I believe education can deal with that, but it's penetrating, it's rather obvious, and we simply need to figure out how to deal with it.
So, Professor, are you insinuating that the fear could be the fear of the appointing authority?
No. I'm not insinuating that at all. All I'm saying is there's something we seem to have interpreted quietly. There are those things which is difficult for you to put a finger on, but it's there. We seem to have internalized that, not in just at the Electoral Commission, I think in many other places. And as a people, we need to figure out how we can make it as a first priority, the loyalty to the state, as a first priority. And then the second, of course, is the loyalty to the people. The people we serve is the state. We need to figure out how we can do that. Because, you see how the bills walk through Parliament. Sometimes you wonder whether there is a debate taking place. Sometimes things will pass without real debate. I saw that when we were debating this, the BBI, for example. So you wonder why a responsible person would do that. Because what you want is to guarantee your constituents that you understand exactly what you are doing. And then you do that.
Yeah, I'm concerned when you talk of loyalty to the state.
Yeah.
The Constitution is the Commission is an independent constitutional commission.
Yeah.
And you swear loyalty to the Constitution.
Yes.
Now you're bringing in the state. Don't you think that is a primary cause of that fear?
Well, you just said about swearing loyalty to the Constitution, and that's a very good thing, but something we have noticed is that, we swear with the Bible, and this is a bit unfortunate, because we are Christians, 80%. And who is doing all the corruption in the country? Christians. who would wait until buy the equipment at the last minute? Christians. Sometimes you be excused if you thought maybe we should swear these people with their traditional oath. Because I look sometimes at home where I come from in Mero, people go commit a crime, they go to court, they lift the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth is what of me God, put it down, and then they lie and they win the case. So when they are called there to the traditional court and you're in check, you pick a stick, an ordinary stick, everybody is stepping on, you give them. Then they are followed by 7 men to a very old pot in the bush. And you are told to put this stick in here, and as you put it, you say, if I am lying, myself and anyone related to me should go in this pot with this stick. You say, no, I didn't. So there's a connection, a spiritual connection between your tradition and between the Christianity. Remember, I'm not talking about the Muslims because the Muslims take that Quran very seriously. So there is something about us that we have not internalized about the spirituality of Christianity and the connection between that symbol of Christianity, which is the Bible, and God. We have not internalized that.
So all these things we talk about, constitutionalism, obeying the Constitution.
It's not constitutionalism. I'm talking about the oath of office. For some people, it is really very serious that you are not going to go against the oath of office. But if for others, it's like a ratio they need to do and get it over with.
Okay. Now, Professor, you have been in this peace building cohesion for quite some time. You've written a lot and published material on this. Could you just remind Kenyans the causes of the post-election violence, according the causes, but most important, the findings of the Waki Commission in 2008?
Yes. The causes of post-election violence is simply, in my opinion, and this could be perception, an electoral body that people have not trusted. And so the losers, they announced that the election has not been free and fair. They call out demonstrations. That is one aspect. Now, because you see the post-election violence really has happened only in, I believe, especially in 2017, you the same. Because 2013, somehow we passed that one very peacefully. Okay. Now the other incidents, of violence during electioneering period cannot be tied to the election 92 and 97. Those are separated from the election. So if you have unbelievable, a credible body that people can trust, and then you lose the election, and then anybody goes in the streets, we will arrest you and charge you with treason, because you're supposed to trust the process. And so what I think is we have a duty as a country to have a body that is trusted, and that when it delivers that result, it can be only challenging in court. But if you choose to go to the streets, then we should be brave enough to basically deal with you as a rebel.
So, as a commissioner, you would outlaw picketing, protest?
No, that's illegal. Picketing, that's absolutely legal. As peacefully assemble. That's what the law says. Peacefully assemble.
You mentioned a word that if you go to the streets...
No, I'm saying if you violently decide to do that, after fair, transparent election, then as a society, we shouldn't be able to reject that.
Okay, Professor, finally, this scenario, we have a scenario now, you are now supposedly a commissioner. You're going through the general elections. Then 2 days to the elections, the results coming from the various polling stations from all over the country, there are major discrepancies in the data and the tallying and all that. There's major discrepancies. There's unrest all over the country and protests about that. As a commission, you're supposed to decide whether to make the final announcement or cancel the election and do the whole thing all over, because the country is under a serious state of insecurity due to the conduct of the elections. What would you do?
I think this is when you really need to meet as a commission and then look at that situation extremely soberly. Because you see, cancelling an election, there are people who don't want the election cancelled and those may want it cancelled. So this is where you really need an extremely sober approach. If there is a complete and a total breakdown of law and order, I think you need, as a commission, to look where the glitches are and see whether they can be corrected. But I will be extremely careful to think of cancelling an election when results are coming in. But having said that, I think also the way we transmit these results, we need to carefully think about that. And this is where I see IEBC has failed, because the proposals and the device to make that system better has always been imposed from our side, as in the minor KI decision. And I think IEBC should be in the front line of proposing ways and means to make this transmission easier. For example, I don't see why we are transmitting results, because as it is right now, I understand that the tallying, when it's finished at the polling station, the presiding officer sends the results simultaneously to 3 places. And that is supposed, I guess, to make it more transparent, to the constituency tallying center, to county tallying center, and then to national tallying center. I think that streaming of the data is bound to cause confusion. That's what I would do. I would suggest that the presidential election, the tallying center be the county, so that what you have in Nairobi, you are receiving 47 pieces of information only. And if you are receiving 47 and you know the expert can figure out how to make all the other controls, but if you are receiving 47 pieces of information, it's much, much easier to control than having all these things coming from all these stations, and then through a system that there is no guarantee that it cannot be hacked. And the people set down their own stations and they use their own polling stations to throw the data in. So I think we need to think more deeply, and there are experts who can actually make this thing perfect, so that at the national tallying center, you simply receive 47 results from the 47 counties. It's much easier to control.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. May I request Reverend Father Mutia to ask his questions?
Thank you, Chair. Habari ya jioni, Professor.
Nzuri sana.
Ningelipenda kwa maneno yako vile umetangulia kusema kwamba tunao wanasiasa ambao ni werevu sana, wanajua kucheza na akili zetu. Ukipata nafasi kwa kamishna wa IEBC na uende huko mashinani kuongea na wananchi, ungewaeleza kuhusu kuchagua wanasiasa wanaofaa, ungelifanya hivyo namna gani?
Ningetumia makanisa, ningetumia ili idara za wananchi, civil society organization, ningetumia hiyo. Lakini kwanza unatengeneza kijitabu ya kufundisha, ambaye hiyo kitabu imeeleza wananchi ya kwamba wanasiasa ni mtu kama wewe, anajitafutia kazi. Hiyo kazi akipata ni yake, bibi yake na watoto yako. Wao watu wengine ambaye anakueleza that si wazuri, ni wabaya, hao watu si adui zako. Na huyu mwanasiasa si rafiki yako. Lakini uko na jukumu ya kukuza demokrasia, kuna jukumu ya kupiga kura. Sasa piga kura yako vizuri. Kama iko mkutano imeitishwa na mwanasiasa ambayo mpendi, tafadhali kaa nyumbani. Si lazima uende huko. Kama unataka kuenda huko, enda, sikiliza, urudi nyumbani kwa amani.
Asante, Professor. Now, allow me to take you back to your probably professional history. Before you left to Ethiopia in 2007, you worked with the Egerton University.
Yes.
There were allegations that you really participated in an illegal strike.
Yes.
And you are accused of also being absent from duty.
Yeah.
Without authority.
Yeah.
Tell us something to do with that.
Yes, what had happened at Egerton is an interesting situation where some young people discovered that the Deputy Vice Chancellor, then Finance and Administration, was running a fairly large illegal payroll. People were having accounts in different banks, because they came with a printout to me, and the only difference was the ID number was the same, so they have different accounts, and they were paying them through diskettes. So I asked them to put that in writing. These young people didn't put in writing, and then I put them in my card, sent them to the anti-corruption to report it. The letter they had written went back to the university. The theft was a fairly large amount of money. It went back to the university, and we all got into serious trouble. Now, you know, when the strike came, I was not in that strike. I had even resigned from the union because I knew there would be retribution, but they still suspended me anyway. So I went to the disciplinary. They had no evidence. I was cleared. And then when the letter came, the letter was a trap. It said that you are found guilty in all charges. But the minute says you are innocent. I attached all those minutes, I think, for you so that you can see that. So you didn't go back with that kind of a letter, and especially when you know you did nothing. So I did it. I rejected that one, that letter. I went to court. And interesting, the case was over, and then after 9 years, the court just gives me 2 million. So if you want to confront these issues of corruption, there's a price to pay. And that is extremely unfortunate.
Thank you, Professor. In your CV, you alluded to the fact that you chaired the Civic Education and Advocacy Committee.
Yes.
As a country, we've always spent a lot of money on civic education. And as a former chair of Civic Education and the Advocacy Committee, what are Kenyans not getting right?
That is really probably one of the best questions. What's Kenyans not getting right? You know, we are not getting right the fact that we really live in a geographical area, that we are simply one entity, that we are a nation. We continue thinking that we are a country, which is what we are actually. Because a country is made of many nations. But we forget that these nations ought to function together, because in a unitary state, any policy pronouncement will affect all of us instantly. So we also don't seem to understand or to get the fact that as a result of this accident of history, we have created a political class that sometimes separates us. it's the civic education is helping me. I want to really tell you that civic education has worked, because Kenyans by themselves, after the election, we are always together. When there is a calamity, we suffer together, we help each other. You see how we've donated blood, donate money. And then when the election is about to come, then the politicians show up and separate us. We don't understand that we need each other more than we need, especially the politicians, because they also, in their pursuit of power, they actually don't use programs, then they bring tribal emotions. Our weakness is inability to disentangle that.
So our problem is that we are more ethnic than patriotic.
We are not really ethnic. This is where I feel very strongly that the Kenyans are misunderstood. Yes, during elections, the politicians will come and use ethnic mobilization. After the election, we get together. We live together peacefully. We don't even know who is next to who. So our weakness is to buy into the political rhetoric without self-reflection, without asking why are we doing that. You see, there is something we always tell people in business, that with selfishness we say it's very bad, always.
So Professor, you mean there's a gap in our civic education manual?
There is, which need to be filled. There's a gap which need to be filled, but in by and large, the Kenyans are living together very peacefully.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, allow me to ask a question. The Election Offence Act requires every officer or agent at the polling station to maintain the secrecy of the ballot. The Act also forbids such an officer from communicating any information before the poll is closed. What measures would you propose as an IEBC commissioner to safeguard against the safety and the secrecy of the ballot?
First, I think I would actually like to make it compulsory for presiding officers to sign those ballots. Because this is where some of the problem actually emanate, because some of them just walk away. But I think it's just an enforcement. That law is very extensive. An enforcement, but even more so, also civic education in to make Kenyans aware of what they cannot do. And if that is done extensively, I think we are just good people, and we will obey the law, and there will be no defacing, there will be no transgression. But intensive civic education needs to be undertaken, because I saw its value at the national cohesion and integration.
Thank you so very much, Professor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Reverend Father. I think Mr. Kimuli wants to follow up on an issue.
Prof, there is something you have said when you're responding to a question by a panelist, Awori, that has caught my attention. It is your view that presidential results should not be transmitted from the polling station directly to the National Tallying Center.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's causing
view.
confusion. My view is that causes confusion, too much confusion.
Now, you've been in this country. You know that traditionally, we never used to transmit results of the presidential election from the polling station directly to a National Tallying Center.
I know that.
You know that?
Yes.
Do you know why we started doing that?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a measure to protect against manipulation.
And do you think it was a good measure?
No, I think we have grown, and I think we have insufficient integrity. Once it's certified, and I just said that all the agents have been made compulsory against the law for an agent not to sign, they have signed, And then that result is now transmitted immediately to the sub-county tallying center, constituency, and then to the county tallying center. So the county's presiding officer, returning officers can collect all that information. And then what arrives in Nairobi is now not all these different, it's just 47 entries. So this can reduce the opportunity for hackers, for example, to interfere with our systems. It can, you know, I think the experts can have
I understand that. Because I'm doing a follow-up question, I just want us to be quick.
Yes.
Do you know that those results still end up in the physical, getting all the way up?
Yeah, I know that.
You know that still happens?
Yes.
And the requirement for transmitting the results electronically was to avoid a situation where they are manipulated. You know, we are coming from a history where you would be waylaid on the way and results would be changed between the polling station and the Constitution Tallying Center and the County Tallying Center. You know that?
Correct. I know that.
So you would want now to take us back just because there's a possibility of hacking. You think the best way is to go back to, in biblical terms, Egypt.
No, I think that's not my point. And remember, what I'm saying is throwing these proposals there, and there won't be experts to look at it to see whether they can work or not work. That I'm doing. But all I'm saying is that when we transmit from over 40,000 polling stations, and when we are transmitting from 47 counties, there is more likely to be a much more control because of the numbers. And also, it's more likely we can reduce the infiltration on our system. You see, I'm awake to the fact that when this equipment, for example, came here, you know, there are controls. I'm not technical in that area, but there's some controls. So if these people can penetrate the American system and confuse it, they can also as easily penetrate ours.
I get you. I get you,
So
Prof.
I'm trying to think.
Just clarify this. Just clarify this, Prof. Your fear is that technology could be infiltrated by hackers.
Not in just that, but I would like to simplify the procedures further.
So you would want to avoid technology altogether?
No, you can't avoid. You are right now into technology. You can't avoid it, but you can make it better.
But are you suggesting that from the polling station to the county tallying center, the results should be transmitted electronically or they should be taken physically?
From polling center electronically. I didn't say physically.
So what is the difference between transmitting electronically to the national tallying center and transmitting electronically to the county tallying center?
The difference is when all the polling stations are submitted to the national tallying center, there is a huge streaming of data. But if they are just doing it to the county, to the sub-county and the county, then you are getting 47 entries in Nairobi. And if there's a problem with a given county, we can isolate that and recount.
Fair enough. So we take the easy way out, even if it includes and involves throwing away the baby with the bathwater.
No, it's not an easy way out. All I said is expert. You can actually take a look at that proposal, because the idea is what's the best way we can do these things that is easy to understand, is simple, and is easily verifiable.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kimuli. And Prof, I want to ask you a general question. If you are appointed a member of the IEBC, you will be charged with implementing a particular chapter in the Constitution dealing with the representation of the people. What chapter is that?
Now, that one, I actually don't know, but the representation as if... No, I should not even try to guess.
It's chapter 7.
Yes.
Of the Constitution.
Yes.
Okay. Prof, we have come to the end of your interview. I'm glad to see that you are smiling part of the time at least, so that's a good sign.
Yes.
Allow me to invite you at this time to make any remarks you might have for the panel.
I think only to again thank you for inviting me here, and to say that I don't envy you. I think your task is onerous in getting 4 good Kenyans to secure our democracy is not a small feat, and therefore I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Prof. And on our part, on behalf of the panel and even Kenyans, allow me to thank you so much for offering yourself up for service. We don't take it for granted, and we do wish you well. So a member of the Secretariat will come and escort you. Please ensure you get all your documentation, the originals, and as you leave, we wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you. We'll now take a break, and we will reconvene tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.